All right, many thanks for staying, and we sincerely apologize for the stretch of the break that we had to take. So now let me bring you up to speed with how the markets did last week. The Nigerian stock market closed the trading week ending on a positive note, with an all-share index gaining around 106.74 points to finish at 97,827.02 points. This marks a modest on about 0.11% gain compared to the previous week's closing level of 97,722.28 points, reflecting a sustained investor interest aimed at surging the market activities. The market volume experienced a significant uptick, with around 1.9 billion shares traded during the week, a substantial 31.73% increase from the 1.4 billion shares exchanged in the previous week. The week's market burns printed a mixed picture, with 42 equities posting gains at improvement from the 39 gainers recorded in the previous week. However, the number of decliners dropped sharply to 24 stocks, down from the 46 losers seen in the preceding week. Market performance: the Nigerian markets showed a mixed but mostly positive performance across several sectors during the week, boosted by a 31.73% in the trading volume. Then on a positive note, so we saw a positive trend all through last week, and then we are hoping to see that. So the market also started on a bullish run still this morning, stating a positive note. All share index recorded gains from Monday all through Friday, and then reserved some on the early surge amongst sectoral indices. The next premium index recorded a gain of around 0.23%, while the NX recorded around 30. Main board index posted modest increase of 0.5% on 0.03% respectively, reflecting in the markets. Then the outlook, definitely, despite the week's dip in the banking sector, which pulled the global all-share index in a higher above 98,000 points to a below of 98,200 points, rather, to below of 98,000. The index managed to end up slightly in the positive territory, a recovery in the banking sector, particularly among Taiwan banks, combined with sustainable positive momentum in global sector, could drive the index higher in the section ahead of the coming week. So we're looking at all of these things that happened and the way the market traded. It shows an amazing way that the Nigerian stock market is actually on a bullish trend, given the fact that 3 weeks ago we noticed that lots of investors actually pulled out, but immediately that happened, we witnessed a bullish trend all through last week, and with that we are witnessing significant increase, and then we are hoping for the same thing to happen this week, given the fact that the markets also opened on a bullish trend. So we hope it's going to be the same all through this week. So moving on, we are going to be talking a little more around Nigerian oil, crude oil, where we witness a dip in the Nigerian crude oil. Nigerian crude oil production dips around 1.53 million in the month of October. Nigerian crude oil production experienced a slight decline the month of October, dropping from 1.54 million barrels per day to a 1.53 million barrels per day. This is according to the latest monthly oil production status report released by the Nigerian Upstream Petroleum Regulatory Commission, or unlike the OPEC report, which focused solely on the crude oil production, excluding continent of the report provided a comprehensive view, including both blended and unblended coordinates. The data showed a marginal increase in crude oil production to a 1.33 million barrels per day in the month of October, from a 1.32 million barrels per day in the month of September, aligning with the OPEC's primary source. Moreover, the Petroleum Downline Regulatory Report highlights an increase in blended commodities to a 44,134 barrels per day, while unblended crude declined to 160 barrels per day during the same period. Moving away from that, this is just a decline that we've suffered. But on the lighter note, we're hearing that Dangote Refinery has curbed out its price of petroleum products for tankers. It used to be 999 naira. Now it's being sold at 970 naira instead of 990 naira that it was being sold at before. So with this, still, we've not, the premise prices in petrol stations have not changed yet. NNPC is still selling at 1,060 naira. Some within the capital territory here are selling around 1,110 naira, 1,150 naira, even depending on where you're getting your products from. So the prices also varies in different states and different locations depending on where you are getting your petrol from. So that is on another note. Well, motorists and Nigerians have complained a lot about the current price, and then how it's increasing, the inflation, and then the monetary policy that is being tightened is also not helping matters, and food prices also going up, transportation going up. On that note, the Central Bank of Nigeria is saying that tightening the monetary policy is going to help, but business analysts and financial analysts have times and times again, made mention of the fact that the only way we can find our way out of inflation is by having more production. Still talking about oil and then subsidy removal, the federal government and the finance minister basically says, yes, in a report says that the federal government have been able to save $20 billion from subsidy removal, and it has been projected that $7 billion will be saved on an annual base from subsidy removal. So all of these things have been said, and then if we've been able to have these, then questions are being asked. If we have 20 billion saved up from subsidy removal, why do the federal government of Nigeria, that is why do President Bola Ahmed Tinubu had to go take a loan of a 2.2 billion when you have saved up 20 billion already? Nigerians are asking questions, and then they need answers to that. Hopefully we'll get answers to all of those questions, and hopefully it's going to make a whole lot of sense to Nigerians. Moving away from the crude and then subsidy and inflation that is being driven by high cost of living, let's talk about African countries why they require greater tax revenue mobilization to experience economic growth from IMF. The International Monetary Fund has disclosed that about 90% of African Union economies will require mobilizing greater tax revenue among other reforms to experience growth. If you remember, just like a few weeks ago, the IMF had said, and World Bank has projected that with Nigeria's current tax reforms, it's going to take Nigeria around 10 to 15 years to be able to have its high economy stabilized, but a lot of persons have argued differently. But let's just talk about the African Union at this point, and then we'll get back to Nigeria and what IMF had to say during the meeting in Washington, D.C. This was disclosed in the G20 report on strong, sustainable, balance and inclusive growth that happened during the meeting that was held in Washington, D.C. The IMF report states that the economic activities in the African Union is forecast to accelerate the growth, increasing from 3.3% in 2023 to a 4.4% in the year 2029, thereby returning closing to the pandemic advantage level of 4.4% in the year 2000 to 2019. The International Monetary Fund has disclosed that about 90 African countries have actually made all of these requests known. So with all of this, now why is it going to take this form? They spoke a lot, and they talked about structural reform for the AU. For the AU, a union of which Nigeria is part of, the International Monetary Fund maintains that the reforms targeting fiscal policies, governance, and education and skill ranked highest. The report stated that about 3/4 of AU economics governance reform needs to be ranked very high, often with the aim of strengthening the rule of the law, fighting corruption, improving public financial management, and as well anti-money laundering and countering the Financial Terrorism Act framework, and as well as enhancing transparency, efficiency and economic and stability and accountability of governments with the state-owned enterprises and sectors. The report advised African governments not just to mobilize greater tax revenue, but also control public spending while ensuring transparency. Now, this boils down to the fact where the Oronsaye reports need to be implemented fully for Nigeria. If that does happen, if the Oronsaye reports get implemented fully, then we would be able to see that, yes, it's not going to take 10 to 15 years as projected by IMF and World Bank for Nigerian economy to stabilize. So looking at those angles now, they've made mention, the Oronsaye reports stated that ministries need to be, come together, and then some other ministries need to be scrapped totally so that we can be able to save costs, and then the leaders, the senators, the governors, and the president need to cut his entourage and then members of staff. If that does happen, salaries that are being paid to all of these people would be able to, be reduced, and then the monies will go into other sectors and other activities. But looking at those angles now, with all of these things being said, with all of this focus, with all of these projections, if implementation, which has been one of the major challenges that Nigeria is facing, if implementation actually gets in fully, then we wouldn't be having all of this conversation and wondering when will Nigerian economy revamp, or how long will it take for it to revamp. So if you're looking at all of these angles now, I think it's going to help Nigerians feel more secure. And talking about the ECOWAS now, they are talking about connecting, having a coalition proposed railway within member states to help aid business flow. So if that happens, hopefully, which they have talked about in the just concluded meeting, in the one-day workshop, we're going to see a whole lot of collaboration, and we're noticing Bitcoin is on its way to hitting around $100,000 US, while we see Dogecoin surging by 5% after Elon Musk made a tweet saying payments of X, which is formerly known as Twitter, can be made via using Dogecoin. But that's how much time will permit us to take, despite the fact we couldn't, bring you all the interesting parts of the story on business. But we'll see how well we can address all the actors, sectors of it tomorrow. You have a great day, and if you have what it means to run with the bull, you go ahead. But if not, stay low with the bear. My name is Samuel Odi. I'll see you again tomorrow. Bye for now.